The Quiet Skies program has been around since April of 2012, so the Obama administration. This was started via the TSA with Department of Homeland Security approval, implemented the Quiet Skies programs using pre-flight enhanced screening procedures for higher risk passengers on domestic flights. Okay, well, if you haven't heard the whole Tulsi Gabbard Quiet Skies thing, basically they were following her around after she made comments of a political nature against the Biden administration and Kamala Harris specifically. Think about that for a second. A person who had been a member of Congress, who has served honorably for this country for decades, a couple of decades, made a comment on her opinion of Kamala Harris. This put her on the Quiet Skies list. But it goes further back than that. When it first came out and it got investigated, this was investigated by the Boston Globe. No joke. Very liberal news organization, Boston Globe. And so members of Congress started asking about this. One of them was Ed Markey. He's a Democrat senator, Massachusetts. That's where Boston is. He's former representative. He's a senator now. You're going to get to hear that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you hear Tulsi Gabbard talking to Fox News. Boom. You're going to hear that whole thing. You're going to get her view on it. Then we're going to come back. I'm going to discuss some things that was found out 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And you're going to hear a Senate hearing between Ed Markey and a guy by the name of Podesky. He's former head of TSA. He was head of TSA from like 2017 to 2025. And then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss a hearing that was held in Congress. And you're going to hear Carlos Jimenez. He's from down in Florida way. He's Republican. Talking to the air marshals about Quiet Skies programs then. So, stick with me. Going to be a little bit longer of a thing here, but you're going to get a lot of information about this Quiet Skies program and why I think this needs to go away. Period. So here we go. Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Also today on Capitol Hill, we learn more about how Biden's henchmen were tracking their political enemies.
Just last night, I received the first set of records from the department regarding Tulsi Gabbard's placement on the TSA Quiet Skies watch list. These documents confirm our suspicions. Federal air marshals surveilled the now Director of National Intelligence during domestic flights in 2024, reporting back information related to her appearance and even how many electronics she was observed using. Unfortunately, this is not an isolated case.
The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is here with us for reaction. Madam Director, thank you for joining us. Now, you came on with us in August of 2024 when we first learned about this. What new can you tell us?
Well, first thing, Laura, I want to go back a little bit before then because it was an interview that I did with you during the end of July that really kicked off why I was placed on this list in the first place. I was talking to you about how Joe Biden had just stepped down. Kamala Harris was going to be the Democratic nominee, and I was warning the American people about how dangerous she would be for our country's security, the safety, security, and freedom of the American people if she were to become commander-in-chief. The very next day, this was in Rome, I got on a plane with my husband to fly back to the United States after having conducted meetings there in the Vatican with other Americans, that I was placed on this secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. What Senator Paul is talking about here are documents that confirm two things. One, that what I experienced and what whistleblowers came forward and exposed very early on in August is absolutely true. It goes into detail about what that surveillance consisted of. Some of the things Senator Paul mentioned, they had to report back, these federal air marshals who were surveilling me, about my appearance, about what kind of electronic devices that I had in my possession. Did I have any interactions with unknown individuals while traveling? The list goes on and on. But the second thing that these documents confirm is, once again, that it was absolutely politically motivated. And I know this because these other Americans who were attending the same meetings that I was at the Vatican, not a single one of them, to include former Trump administration officials, not a single one of them were put on this Quiet Skies list. And the only difference was they were not on your show the day before traveling back to the United States, or any show for that matter, publicly criticizing then Vice President Kamala Harris.
So they were trying to put the cone of protection around her, probably knowing that she was going to falter going forward. And this was a way to kind of make you step back from that when they were trying to intimidate you?
I think they were trying to intimidate me, but also they were trying to really create this chilling effect, probably knowing that I wouldn't stay silent about it and send a message out to people that if you go and criticize then Vice President Kamala Harris, who is now going to be the Democratic nominee for president, you too would face the consequences. And I am not the only person, by the way, under this Quiet Skies domestic terror watch and surveillance program that was targeted for political reasons. There are many people, one even the wife of a federal air marshal who happened to be in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, nowhere near the Capitol. She was on this Quiet Skies list for over 2 years and surveilled even when traveling with her federal air marshal husband. There are countless examples that we could go through once again that show very clearly the Biden administration's weaponization and politicization of the government against everyday Americans, violating our most fundamental constitutional rights and civil liberties.
Well, starting with the 2016 Trump campaign, the fraud of that, all the way through the fraud of Hunter Biden and the laptop, and the fraud of the border, and the fraud of every other policy, Afghanistan, that they lied about. But on this issue of the open skies, Quiet Skies list, is there a reason that list should exist at all at this point? Since it's,
no,
it's not.
This program has been going on for nearly 2 decades, and they have not. This Quiet Skies program that the TSA under the Department of Homeland Security has tasked to federal air marshals to execute, not a single terrorist has been caught. Not a single one, for as long as this program has existed. So instead, what is continuing to happen, so long as this program continues, is every single day, 40 or 50 federal air marshals are tasked with surveilling everyday Americans for no purpose, these arbitrary reasons that are put forward. The funny thing was that when senators started asking questions about my case in particular, the TSA started changing their story and making things up about why they were justified in putting me on this list. Once again, affirming the politicization of the federal government against the American people.
Well, this has to be zeroed out, never to be seen again. Madam Director, thank you very much for giving us the latest on this. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Now, you heard all that from Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I'm going to say something. Might not be popular with the conservative circle. But you notice that she didn't say anything about getting rid of the program. No, nobody's saying anything about getting rid of the program. Well, this next clip that you're going to hear, about 6, 7 minutes, it's from 2018. In it, Senator Ed Markey from Massachusetts is questioning the then head of the TSA. And you're going to hear all of this information that is going to, it disturbs me, probably going to disturb some of you folks. But the one thing that I at least got enjoyment out of is the fact that, well, they are saying that the White House at the time did not have any interaction with Quiet Skies. So the White House, under Trump at least, didn't have any interaction with this Quiet Skies program. So this means that these folks were doing their job, supposedly. I don't really consider it them doing their job, but without the White House having any say into this. But it's still a disturbing program, so let's get into this Ed Markey clip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pekoski, recent reports have revealed concerning details about your agency's previously undisclosed Quiet Skies program. Under the program, air marshals monitor American travelers who aren't suspected of any crime and aren't on any watch list. Mr. Pekoski, I want to learn more about what exactly the TSA is monitoring. Does the TSA monitor whether Americans go to the bathroom during flights?
Sir, the Quiet Skies program is not a new program. It's been in existence since about 2011.
Does the TSA monitor whether Americans go to the bathroom during flights?
Sir, we place federal air marshals on flights where some Quiet Skies selectees may be passengers.
So yes or no, do you monitor?
And part of their presence to mitigate the risk of a Quiet Skies passenger?
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Does the TSA monitor what Americans eat or drink on a flight?
We don't monitor. I would not use the term monitor. We observe. This is a law enforcement mission.
So the answer is yes.
They observe. Yes, sir.
Does the TSA follow Americans after they're deplaned and are walking to their car or taxi?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So again, the American public does deserve to know the extent to which they are being surveilled. Again, we are talking about Americans who aren't on any watch list and aren't suspected of any crimes. Who at TSA determines what passengers land on the Quiet Skies list?
Quiet Skies is an intelligence-based risk assessment program, sir, that's operated by rules. And so the rule set that's reviewed continuously, and changes to those rules can only be approved by myself or my deputy.
Okay, once you gather information about flying Americans, where is the data stored and who has access to that information?
The data is stored in our intelligence officer, and our intelligence professionals have access to that information.
It's limited to them.
Right.
What do you do with the information about innocent Americans? Do you delete it immediately?
With respect to an individual who would be a Quiet Sky selectee based on rules, based on intelligence, if after a certain period of time...
What is the period of time?
I can't reveal that in open session, sir, but there is a period of time. It is short.
Well, if they haven't done anything wrong, why is it not immediately?
We, by our rules, want to see a certain number of encounters before they're removed from that program.
Even if you've already determined that they're innocent?
We would not have made that determination.
Once you've determined that they're innocent,
then
do you then delete it immediately?
So once we determine, I wouldn't use the term innocent either. Once we determine that they don't present a risk, an additional risk to security, then they are removed from the Quiet Skies program. Those records are retained for 2 years.
2 years?
Sir.
Even though they're innocent Americans, they haven't. You don't have any reason to have.
Sorry, I wouldn't say that. I would say that it's a rules-based program that assesses risk. People that are selected for Quiet Skies based on patterns of travel, in our view, informed by intelligence, represent more risk than other passengers do.
Right, but having surveilled them and not having any evidence which has been developed, it just seems to me that they do have a right to the presumption of innocence. I'm also concerned that the Quiet Skies program may not pass constitutional muster. Mr. Prokowski, does TSA take into account characteristics like a traveler's name when determining who to monitor?
We take into consideration a traveler's record. We do not take into consideration a traveler's race or religion.
So identifiers like race or religion or their name can clearly be used as proxies for race and religion. Monitoring travelers based on these criteria raises pressing concerns about the constitutionality of the Quiet Skies program. So you are saying that you do not use race, religion, or the traveler's name in determining who to monitor?
We don't use race or religion, sir. We do, of course, use the traveler's name because that's part of the reservation data.
Right, but is a traveler's name used to create a suspect category just because of the traveler's name, not with any with no other information gathered about him or her, with the exception of the name?
No, sir. It wouldn't be the name all by itself. It would be the name and other criteria.
All right. The American public also deserves to know whether other agencies besides TSA are involved here. Does the White House or Department of Justice have any involvement with this program?
This program is part of a privacy impact assessment that's been published on the DHS website for years, and we do use the travel vetting system that Customs and Border Protection employs.
So does the White House or Department of Justice have any involvement in this program?
Involvement meaning what, sir?
Are they participating? Yeah, are they participating in this program?
The White House, to my view, is not participating in the program.
And the Department of Justice, do they have any involvement with the program, the Department of Justice?
This is a law enforcement program. Department of Justice may in certain circumstances, but it wouldn't be based just on Quiet Skies.
Air marshals have recently come forward and voiced doubts about the Quiet Skies program, which they say saps their ability to do more vital law enforcement work. Approximately how many people has TSA monitored so far under the program?
So I don't have those numbers right in front of me. I'd be happy to provide them to you for the record because we do record those numbers.
Could you give me a range?
I would say in Quiet Skies with the air marshal involvement, it's in the thousands of passengers.
Okay. Of those, how many were American citizens?
I don't have that information off the top of my head.
How many individuals surveilled under the Quiet Skies program have been arrested or prosecuted?
I don't believe anybody has been arrested or prosecuted. However, people that are in the Quiet Skies program have eventually been determined to be part of a larger selectee pool based on what the Quiet Skies program.
I appreciate that, but no one's been arrested or prosecuted yet. And how many threats has the program foiled thus far?
The program is a prevention program designed to mitigate risk on board aircraft. And so, like many of our prevention programs, there's no particular plot that's been foiled as a result.
So it hasn't foiled any threats yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And without knowing more, the program appears like a huge waste of taxpayer dollars and an infringement on our privacy. Mm-hmm. This is a vast program that actually takes Americans and puts them into a suspect category, and thus far there's no evidence that it has produced anything that would in fact enhance the safety of the American flying public. So from my perspective, it is something that you should seriously reconsider because to me it just does look like a huge waste of taxpayer dollars. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Senator Markey.
Okay, now you've heard some more information. It gives you a little bit more in-depth idea of what's going on with Quiet Skies. Now, last year, after it was found out what they were doing to Tulsi Gabbard, several members of Congress decided, yeah, it might be a good time to investigate this again. So this time it was in the House. Carlo Jimenez, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, U.S. Representative, he's questioning a person with TSA. Now, in this questioning, it got me thinking. There's a lot of information that they aren't going to share. But basically, it keeps coming out that nothing's being done. They don't even know who they should belong under. Seriously, they're so confused as to what they are, they don't even know which part of the government that they should be under. You're going to hear this. He's asked. They're wanting Congress to make a decision. having Congress make a decision is like asking a 5-year-old whether he wants some fancy Italian meal or some fancy French meal, because all you're going to get is they want chicken nuggets, basically. So let's get into this next hearing here.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman. Members now be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Mr. Casaretti, your testimony was somewhat troubling to me. How many FAMs are there? How many Federal Air Marshal personnel are there?
Chairman, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be releasing that in open testimony, and specifically, I could only guess. I don't work with the agency directly, so I would.
Well, we'll find that out. Okay,
Thanks so much.
Not a problem. Okay, thanks. I'm interested in where is it that you would want the FAMs to be? I mean, you don't want it to be under TSA, but where would you recommend that it should be? Should you be your own agency, separate, or should you be under some other law enforcement branch of federal government?
I think the FAMs want to be under law enforcement. We've had this conversation with amongst ourselves and with different staff. The best fit would be in a law enforcement, not a regulatory agency. Standalone probably would be more problematic than it's worth. And the air marshals just want to make sure that there's an intelligence basis for them going on these flights, that they have a meaningful contribution to security in so much that they can do investigative work and try and find the problems before they get on the aircraft as well. We've toyed around with DOT, looking into the authority of that. There's been a lot of speculation and questions about whether or not we could become HSI agents and whether or not the duties in the air are going to be a collateral duty. Those are promising, but I think there's going to be an issue with the shifting authority from 49C over to 19 USC authorities. So we're still talking about that. We have no answer. We're hoping this committee can figure it out for us.
Yeah, but we're going to be looking to you, the people, to tell us, hey, where do you think you best lie? I guess we're going to look at it ourselves. When you're assigned to a flight, are you assigned to a mission, or are you just are these things random, or how does that work?
So the missions, a lot of the missions are random, but there are QS and those types of flights, or SMCs, that they say.
Could you speak English for me, please?
Yeah.
I don't speak TSAEs. So,
and special mission coverages, they say, are intelligence-based missions. Quiet Skies, they say, are intelligence-based missions. Unfortunately, we don't feel that the rule sets that they're using to create these missions are necessarily intelligence. One of the reasons why we worked with Congressman Heiss in the past was because we were trying to flush out exactly what they were doing with intelligence and why they thought these missions were of higher risk that required a federal agent to be placed on it for anti-terrorism measures. It just didn't make sense to us. And what we found out was they borrowed, or they thought that they would borrow a rule set system from Customs, which is called automated targeting system, which puts these rules in place, and they grab people that happen to stumble into it, like a gill net. And I worked for Customs, and I used to deal with this before. That system was designed to be used in the border area. It was designed to have inspectors actually asking questions of these people that might stumble across a rule set. So in that scenario, it works very well because you have eye-to-eye human law enforcement contact with the individual that may have stumbled across the rule set. Air marshals can't do anything like that. They're assigning an air marshal on the flight based upon these single data points. I don't consider that intelligence, and a lot of the air marshals don't either.
The Quiet Skies program, how does one get on that list?
You'd have to trigger one of the rules. There's rules that they make, and they're triggered, and if you happen to trigger it, you're on the program.
Okay, so I guess we're going to have a classified briefing with TSA to find out how one gets on that list, and how in the world does a former congresswoman get on that list. And so when somebody's in the Quiet Skies program, anytime they fly, they're going to be seen. Somebody's going to be with them. Is that what you're telling me?
They're going to, there's a high risk there's going to have an air marshal on the flight. I don't know if they're going to have a job on that flight, but they'll be put on the flight.
Fair enough. I think that's better in a classified setting as to how one gets there and why certain people are on it. I'm certainly very interested in why certain people are on it, but I'm not going to have it here in this hearing. So my time is up. I now recognize the ranking member from Michigan.
Thank
You've heard all this information. Now, in 2020, the DHS, OIG, the Inspector General, actually came out with a redacted report that said TSA needs to improve management of the Quiet Skies program. That was in 2020. I'm not going to, basically, it was, TSA did not properly plan, implement, and manage its Quiet Skies program. That was the results of the audit. It didn't properly plan, implement, and manage its Quiet Skies program. Basically, all this information that you've just heard, I want to know if you agree with me. I think that Quiet Skies needs to go away. Seriously, I do. I think the Quiet Skies is a waste of taxpayer dollars. I think them following innocent people needs to end. It's a one-page bill. Seriously, it is a one-page bill. Quiet Skies and related programs that surveil Americans without due process goes away immediately. And no more making of similar programs. End of story. It's a simple one-page bill. Ted Cruz has proven that you can get a one-page bill passed, and this will tell you where people are standing, who's against it, who's for it, and who you should be paying attention to. But they're not going to do it. They're going to continue to use programs like this for political gain. They're going to continue to use programs like this to waste money. And all it's doing is taking away our right to privacy. That's a constitutional right. You get on these planes and you're getting monitored for what? They know when you go to the bathroom. They know what you eat. They know who you interact with. None of that is the government's business, in my opinion. This needs to go away now. So that's what I'm saying. This has been Paul, Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.